Hello and welcome to the Critical Twits, where today we are joined once again by lead game designer and writer for Slightly Reckless Games, Sacha Lightfoot. Hello!
Hello. Thank you for having me again.
Always a pleasure, always a pleasure. Enjoyed it so much last time we had to have you back. We talked last time about Berserker as the Kickstarter campaign for that was kicking off, but today we're going to have a talk about your next Kickstarter, which starts on the 15th of May, I do believe.
15th of April.
15th of April.
6th of May, I think.
There we go. I don't even know what month it is anymore. My entire life is falling apart. So yes, we're going to talk about that, which is an expansion or a series of expansions for the first game that you ever published, which is Ronin. So let's go straight in to what is Ronin.
Yeah. So Ronin it started as a Mortborg hack, and it was our first ever TTRPG project, and I look back on it with a bit of a critical eye now that I've kind of learned a lot over the last 2 years, but it still holds a special place in my heart. But it's like a rules light, dark fantasy, Edo period, samurai inspired TTRPG. As I say, it is a Mortborg hack, so plenty lethal, although we tried to alleviate some of that with a resurrection mechanic, and then we've got mechanics for like honor, haiku, learning from teachers, everything you'd expect from samurai inspired stuff.
Yeah, I think I said this last time we spoke. I'm going to hold this up to the camera, and for those of you who are listening on the podcast, not on the YouTube channel, there's a YouTube video of this, but also have a look and head over to the website. This is a beautiful thing, first of all. I absolutely love this book. I like the my camera's a bit rubbish, but I love the color scheme. I love the design. It's really, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. That is exactly, you're in my head already. You're in my head.
Yeah.
It really sort of brings things together and it feels very cohesive. Some of the kind of more like the old school Renaissance, the OSR kind of vibe in role play products can be a bit kind of patchy. Whereas everything really ties in nicely. And I was rereading again earlier today and enjoying the writing. The writing is really good. There was just a couple bits I thought I'd pull out before we move into the expansion. Just something that I really, really liked. Just a little line that I quite enjoyed, which was because the world is set. The setting of the world, there's been an eclipse that has put out the sun.
So it's like a fictional Edo period island called Kagenoshima, where an endless eclipse has kind of started and brought about yokai and all those kind of nasty things that you'd expect with a Mortborg hack. We have something called the Black Calendar, which is kind of similar to the calendar in Necrobell, and all these bad things will happen depending on what you roll on the morning. But yeah, it was kind of the way I envisioned it, is that the people of Kagenoshima kind of celebrated the eclipse at the start, and then when it didn't go away, it started to get real, and people started to go, "Oh shit, this is life now, I guess."
Yeah, that often happens when you think something's going to be good and it quickly goes wrong. Cough, cough. Politics of the modern day. Yes, so I just really liked. There's lots of this throughout, but the line "Daybreak is just a lighter shade of darkness. The sky bleeding purples and reds like bruises on the cosmos." It was very poetic and also kind of horrible. So I really like that. And then I was looking through some of the curses. Just checking my page 66. Number 4 on here. A continuous whisper haunts your ears, reciting your deepest regrets. Test spirit DR12 to focus on tasks requiring concentration. As a man who has ADHD and a large dose of anxiety, that felt very, 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 very real.
I mean, some of it is like metaphorical, the There's one where on Kami's Vengeance, where there's like a rain cloud follows you even indoors and just like drizzles over you a bit all the time. But there are some that are just kind of overtly, you are an anxious being. Just so you know, the people who kind of play TTRPGs to escape the life are just brought back into the horrors of their own life for a little bit.
Oh dear. Yes. So just I would say it's a nice book. It's a nice object, very, very high quality, but also it's a good fun read. I haven't managed to play yet, despite my many, many, many intentions. Real life gets in the way of games and fun.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah.
So it's at some point we may have to bully you guys into running something for us online
Absolutely.
and popping it
I'd
on
be
the
more than happy
podcast.
to. Yeah.
It means I can play games without feeling that guilt that I should be doing something productive.
Yeah.
Which is a constant guilt. But yes, so Ronin was kickstarted and finished last year.
The year before, I think
before.
it was 2023. I think the expansion Kickstarter will be like near as damn 2 years to the day that the first one launched. I think the first one launched on April the 18th, 2023.
Yes.
And
so so we met by happenstance at the UK Games Expo 2024.
Yep.
And that was where you were kind enough to furnish us with a copy. And then you did Berserker. And now you've returned back full cycle back to Ronin. So you've got, it's not just it feels like almost like 3 Kickstarters in one, in that there's multiple parts to it. What have you got planned for the 15th of April?
So the way the kind of idea started was a lot of people after Ronin came out, it felt like, as well as the first Kickstarter did, felt like we didn't do any marketing. I didn't which is weird to say because my background's in video production, but we just kind of like threw some spreads together and like jumped on Reddit and went, what do people think about this? And people seem to like it, so we're like, oh, we'll do a Kickstarter. And then the algorithm gods of Kickstarter kind of blessed us, and we did well enough to raise a sizable amount. But it felt like kind of following that, the period after, there was plenty of people emailing and getting in touch and like, I want to get Ronin, how do I get hold of Ronin? And we had kind of like some teething issues when it came to like production and fulfillment and stuff like that. We'd never done it before, so we were kind of learning on the job for the first project. But it's kind of not lost its, I'm going to say popularity, but the interest hasn't waned since we ran that Kickstarter. There's people getting in touch or joining the Discord, once, twice, 3 times a week, saying, nice. How do I buy Ronin? How do I get hold of it? But if it felt like after Berserker, I kind of really knew how everything works now. I know how long production takes. I know what kind of file types people need, and all the boring stuff that no one really wants to hear about, that I kind of really didn't want to know about either, but I have to now. But now that I kind of know all that stuff, it means I can confidently explore avenues for Ronin that I kind of wouldn't have been able to with the first Kickstarter. So whether that's kind of peripherals like dice and a GM screen and stuff like that, or the actual expansion books themselves. So the first one is called Densetsu, which is the Japanese word for legend. I'm actually over a year into my Japanese language learning journey now, so I can I'm not having to like fret over, is that the right kanji for that, or am I using the right terminology? I can actually I can check it myself now. But Densetsu, it means legend, and it's a collection of short stories and folklore tales inspired by Japanese myth. It's honestly kind of my sneaky little way of being able to write Japanese folklore and tales and then just incorporate it into our game. But each kind of tale has its own game elements included in it. So I'm not sure if you saw our free mini adventure that's kind of out there at the minute. It's called The Trials of the Tengu. That's kind of like an example of what Densetsu would be like. So that follows the story of a guy called Rensho who climbs a mountain to learn a technique from a Tengu, and it's very classic and inspired by Japanese mythology, but then you've got the stats for kind of like the bandits and the trials and the technique that you learn and that kind of thing. So the whole kind of philosophy for Densetsu is these Japanese folklore inspired tales with game elements mixed in, and really like fleshing out the world of Kage-no-shima. So what was it like before the eclipse? What did the factions kind of look like? How did they kind of interact with each other? But then, these famous like duelists, and we'll have like new classes and weapons and armor and all that kind of stuff. We're all actually as well, this is a new development, I haven't spoke about this really yet, where, as I mentioned, my Japanese language skills have I can speak Japanese now, but I'm not by no means fluent. But we're making the commitment to have at least, I say 50%, but at the minute it's looking like at least 75% of the artists working on Densetsu will be native Japanese people.
Oh wow!
Yeah, which is something that the first time around it wasn't something I really could explore because, well, I didn't speak the language and I don't know any Japanese people. But this time, like, it was something that got brought up the first time around, like, are there going to be any native Japanese artists working on it? And it was a case that I just didn't know any as much as I would have liked to. But yeah, this time around, it looks like it's going to be mostly Japanese native artists working on Densetsu, which is cool for me, and it means I get to practice Japanese.
Nice, that's really good. How have you found kind of contacting, employing, working with people all the way across the other side of the world?
It's not easy. I have to write basically 2 versions of every email so that I can kind of look at it and glance at the English one to remember what I wrote, and then the Japanese one for their sake. They only reply in Japanese though, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been really interesting. Like, I wasn't sure when I started reaching out to these kind of Japanese native artists and stuff what the kind of response or the feedback would be, but it's been so positive. I think I got in touch with like probably around 35, 40 artists, and I think around 30 of them got back, and the ones who got back and couldn't do it were just too busy. It wasn't a case of they didn't want to do it. So everyone seems game for it, and
oh, nice.
It's just a different beast, man. I love the way they write emails and stuff. Everything's like, I was reading one to Dom today. It was like, hello, my name is this and I'm from this place, and thank you so much for contacting me. And I was like, you don't get that over here. You just email someone and go, where's this? And you're like, yeah, all right, yeah, I'll get on it.
Yeah. I wondered, do you think they're going to bring something different to the art that you haven't had before?
100%, yeah. Just even from a cultural standpoint, they kind of, they're going to understand the kind of look we're going for in terms of like ukiyo-e and kind of Shigeru style yokai. I'll get onto the book here in a little bit, but yeah, I think just from the kind of examples that I've seen from them, it doesn't look like, not, and this isn't a slight on against any of the artists that we used on Ronin or anything like that, but it doesn't look like someone emulating a Japanese style. It just looks like Japanese style, which I think if you didn't look too much into it, you might not kind of notice, but it's something that I've kind of noticed since seeing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's that authenticity, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah.
And I suppose it allows, there'll be lots of little details that might pass someone like me by, but those in the know will sort of understand and see where that's coming from. So that's Densetsu or Legend.
Yeah.
I'm learning Japanese as well. Lovely.
There you go.
And then you've also got, I'm gonna leave it to you to say, because I'm probably gonna mangle a two-letter word. It's the next one is
Book of Yo.
That's how I would have said it.
If you want to get technical, I think it would be yo. I think the O denotes having a U on the end. But yeah, you can get away with the Book of Yo. I say the Book of Yo. Yeah, so the Book of Yo is kind of like the darker. If Densetsu was the kind of light, not that there is a particularly light side of an eclipse-ridden world, but the Book of Yo is definitely the darker side of it. So it's 100 plus. It's like bang on 100, but some might get cut, some might get added. Yokai, and they're all, and I say this about Densetsu as well, that they're all kind of researched and inspired by actual Japanese myth. I was writing answers to an interview earlier on today, actually, so it's fresh in my mind that when we made Ronin, it was kind of our sensitivity reader said that it was like a love letter to Japan, whereas I think with these two expansions, they are rooted seriously in like authentic core Japanese myth. Every like yokai in the book, there's like a pile of Shigeru's yokai books just
Okay.
sat here
So
that I just kind of read as I go day to day.
So yokai, is that the equivalent of a demon? Is that or a spirit?
Yeah, so I think it's more akin to like, it's hard to define, right? It's because there's kind of like a scale. You've got everything from like phoenixes to like a small boy who carries tofu. And it's just kind of like that's a real one that is in the book. Yeah. Again, all rooted in Japanese myth. It was news to me as well. There's another one that's I can't remember the Japanese word, like the Japanese name, but it translates to sand throwing old woman.
Oh, okay.
She just like she waits in the forest and throws sand at you. So there's like this scale, right, where it's on they're not all these horrible things that are trying to kill you. They're just kind of like mysterious things. One of them is like an umbrella that's come to life and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's a scale of, top end, this massive demon that's going to try and kill you, and like world ending thing. There's a catfish with a woman's face that causes earthquakes.
Oh.
So that's on the bigger end of the scale, and then you've got like Tofu Boy, which is just kind of a guy that you would see and go, "That's weird," and carry on living your life.
With
you'll have stats,
pages and pages of rules and stats for Tofu Boy.
Exactly. Yeah. He's going to have like he's 50% of the book, man.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the mock up for the cover of Book of Yo. It looks awesome. I really like the style of that. Very dark. Is it the calendar that's on the front?
It is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in the Berserker video, I held that up to the camera and got very excited about it. It's very, again, evocative, and I really like that. So check out there's a preview page on the Kickstarter, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah. And there's some really nice artwork on there. But it reminded me of almost like a monster manual. That was kind of the feel from looking at the description. So when you used to have, back in the day, you had your player's book, your DM's book, and then your monster manual. And I loved a monster manual. When I was a lonely child with no one to role play with, I would love to flick through and read about the different
I kind of miss it as well. I think there's something to be said about like you say, just kind of skimming through a monster manual, if you will, and then kind of imagining how scenarios might play out. And you're like, oh, what might I do with that? And how might I run it that way? Might I do it that way? It's not just yokai in the Book of Yo. It's kind of forbidden texts and rituals and kind of all the darker kind of spooky stuff you'd expect from us.
So more hitting kind of like the horror angle, the horror
exactly,
side of thing.
The way I'm trying to kind of, I want to say market it, but it's not really about marketing. It's more a sense of like, so if you've got Ronin, or even if you don't have Ronin, you've heard of it, you want to play it and that. You've got the core rule book, which is everything you need to kind of get up and play, and you can start running sessions straight away. You then have the option, if you want a more grounded samurai experience. It's still got like mythology and stuff in Densetsu, but it's more of a inspired by Japanese history angle. Then you can kind of tailor your experience to use more of that book. If you want more of like a horror experience and you want that kind of classic Japanese horror, dark yokai inspired mythology angle, then you can kind of use more of the stuff from that book. And then if you want to go ham, just use everything from both books.
Nice. And then there was one more thing that popped up on there. Two more. One more big thing, I suppose, which is the starter set.
Yeah. I think that's like a hot thing at the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, well, having a game with a starter set, I mean, it reeks of success. It's like, we're so good, we've got so much stuff.
Hopefully.
We're gonna give you another way in. It's not the kind of although it's a start, it's not the kind of thing that you do straight away. It's normally something that comes out for an established product. And yours is a box set, isn't it, with lots of fun-looking stuff in it?
Yeah. So we're not breaking the mold here. We're not doing anything kind of mental different for our starter set. It's going to have like a condensed version of the core rules. It's going to have your dice, your pre-gens, your character sheets, everything you need to play. Maps. I've just kind of nailed down our map artist. She's called Paula. Let me get her name right because it's Polish, and I wouldn't want to. She goes by Ori or Paula Wojcik. I might be saying that wrong. Polish. If it was Japanese, I'd tell you all day, but Polish, I'm not that good at. But yeah, it's got everything you need to kind of sit down and play. And I just started writing the adventure today, actually. The adventure I've kind of been brainstorming for a while, and it's going to be a 4-part adventure set across 4 seasons.
Okay.
After visiting Japan for the first time last year, their seasons are like what you imagine seasons to be. You know what I mean? Like we live in England, and it's like grey, and then we might get sunny for a bit, and then it's grey.
Yeah, it goes up and down the Dulux color chart of grey, but it's still firmly in grey. Yeah.
Whereas when I was in Japan in October last year, it looked like autumn. You know what I mean? The colors were starting to change to those vibrant browns and oranges and stuff like that. So it kind of stuck with me when I came back to kind of start thinking about this expansion and the adventure and the starter set. So I think we're going to do it across 4 seasons. I think it's going to start in winter, and Blue Eye Samurai kind of came out after. I don't know if you've seen it.
No.
It is really good. It's on Netflix. But it came out kind of not long after Ronin finished. Same with Shogun, actually. But the kind of Blue Eye Samurai explores Japan and its seasons as kind of like it's just a cool black backdrop. Blood on the snow looks great.
Yeah, I suppose you've mentioned Blue Eye Samurai and Shogun. There seems to have been a bit more of not a movement, and more media based in that kind of
100%,
that kind of era, that kind of part of the world.
Assassin's Creed Shadows just came out. Ghosts of Yotei is out this year.
Yeah. So
interestingly, I'm going to climb Mount Yotei this year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I'm committed to the samurai bit.
Is that going to be a tough trek up the
10 hours? Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not a seasoned hiker. A few people have said to me like, "Don't die," and I'm like, "I'll try not to. I just do my best."
I was just So there's kind of that. I suppose it's popular at the moment, isn't it? There's a lot.
I think it's always kind of come in waves. I don't. I might be showing my age here a bit, but I remember like when I was growing up, it was. I think I was growing up around the tail end of like the kung fu kind of era.
Yeah.
And then I feel like that kind of stuff, Eastern inspired media, especially samurai stuff, kind of comes in waves and kind of falls out of the zeitgeist and then back in, and it seems to be coming back in, which is good for us.
Yeah. Now they've copied you. They've seen Ronin, and they've gone, we want more of that. Yeah. Let's throw £150 million at a TV show.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it got commissioned for 4 more seasons.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I suppose what you may have already mentioned a couple of bits, but what was it that got you interested in Japan as a culture, and then moving on into kind of a setting for your or an inspiration for your own games?
I think I talked a little bit about this last time actually, and how I think like growing up as a millennial, like growing up in the 90s and stuff, Japanese kind of media was popular and video games were everything was Nintendo and PlayStation, and me and my cousin growing up, but we were obsessed with Japan, and we were always like, "Oh, can we go to Japan on holiday next year?" And we'd be like, "No, we're going to Lanzarote or Malaga or whatever it was." But my granddad always liked Western films. He still does, to be fair. And one of my favourite films is Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, because he used to just put it on all the time. And it wasn't until I got like older that I realised that all of these Western films, Magnificent Seven and Famous Five and all that kind of stuff, were all directly inspired by Kurosawa's samurai films and the samurai films of that era. So when I went back and started watching those, it was like, oh, fuck, these are even better. Wow, this is mad. So I've always loved kind of Kurosawa, and as a filmmaker, he's kind of like, he's still well regarded as one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a good kind of mental link to have, because I've been writing today, and sometimes I'll listen to the Kurosawa soundtracks and stuff, but today I think I had like Louis Baclav and Ennio Morricone on and stuff, because it still activates that same part of my brain, even though it's Western and not samurai stuff. And then like growing up, as I've got older, Sekiro is probably my favorite video game of all time. I think I sweat more than I've ever sweat playing that game. Literally start dripping. And Ghost of Tsushima was amazing. As I say, Ghost of Yotei is coming out this year, and the only reason I'm going to go and climb that mountain is because that's where the new game's set. So it's always been kind of like in and around my kind of periphery in terms of popular media, but it's weird. It's only because like since starting the work on the expansion the last, I don't know, year or so, it's probably coming up on a year now since I properly started. But like reading actual tales and reading about actual history and going there and seeing like these locations and stuff that I'd only kind of imagined before, I don't know, it's really kind of like tipped me over the edge into the way that I'm creating this new expansion and trying to kind of flesh out the world of Ronin. Not that, like I say, not that it was necessarily bad before, but I just feel way more in touch with Japanese culture, and I feel like I'm coming at it from a more authentic, as you said before, place.
Yeah, I was going to ask, how did this, like, you hadn't, last time we spoke, you hadn't been to Japan.
No.
Now you have.
Yes.
And you're planning on going back. And did you say you were a year into learning the language?
Just over a year, yeah. I went back to, I study at university at Liverpool. I study Japanese language there. I have a couple of private tutors that I spend time with. Do a couple of hours a week with each of them. But nothing compared to going there, like being there for 3 weeks. I think I learned more in that 3 weeks than I did in like 6 months. Just because you've got no option to be immersed in the culture. It's not like if you go to Spain or Greece or something where everyone's quite accommodating in English. It's like I went to a place called Takayama, which is up in the northern mountains of Ishikawa. And no one spoke a lick of English. But it was kind of great because it was like, well, now I don't know what you'd do if you didn't speak Japanese. I guess you'd have to use the Translate app all the time. But yeah, in terms of like actually going there, like I went to Kyoto and I did this kind of samurai experience where we kind of learned, we dressed up in the garb and learned how to swing a sword, and I chopped a tatami mat up, which was cool. So I kind of like I used all my savings that I had to go to Japan to get Ronin off the ground. So it was nice. It felt like it came full circle, and I was kind of rewarded for taking that risk, and I managed to actually get there and do it, so to speak.
That's good. Has that kind of influenced what you're doing now? I know you've said that it's you feel kind of you're coming at it from a different place. Is there anything that you're doing that's different to what you did before in terms of maybe process or how you're thinking about things as you add them to the game?
Yeah, I think like it's a good question. Like I don't think that I was necessarily wrong in my approach previously, or nor do I think like I was being insensitive or anything like that. But I think now that I just feel so much more informed, and especially learning the language. And it's weird. Like I never thought I could appreciate a language. Like when people say, "Oh, it's a beautiful language," I'm like, I just thought that was kind of hyperbole, and people just said that. But now I'm like, oh no, it is a beautiful language. Like it's not, because it's not Romance or Germanic, and it's so completely different than any other language that I did Spanish at school and kind of little bits of French here and there. But the way the sentences are structured and the way they kind of the way the language is kind of formatted in this kind of formal and casual and like uber casual. The words are all different, and I know, coming from an outside perspective, that's probably just, because it's normal to them, and I'm sure if they looked at English, they'd probably feel the same way. But it's just, I just feel like I get it more, like go, like I say, going and experiencing the country and the culture and getting to know the people. And I was speaking about it today that in the core rule book, a lot of people had touched on how it's a little bit more hopeful than Morkborg, and I was like, yeah, a lot of people picked up on that, but not a lot of people picked up on why, and that's because Japan as a culture has to deal with, immense natural disasters quite often, like earthquakes and tsunamis and stuff like that. So their approach as a culture is like, when that happens, you don't kind of like, oh, I need to save myself. You need to put the kind of benefit of everyone else first. And that was kind of the angle I was coming up with the core rule book of why there's this, in spite of this endless eclipse, people are hopeful and they'll try and help each other and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it seems like more of a. I'm not an expert. I have my bits of Japanese media that I enjoy, a few bits of literature, and I will occasionally go. Every couple of years, I'll go through a stage of watching YouTubers, like white British YouTubers that live in Japan, and going
Chris
through
Broad,
Chris Broad, and then I'll get into some more and more obscure ones, and then I'll get distracted by something else, and I'll wander off. But the culture seems much more kind of communal, much more community based. Our culture, more and more, I think, is becoming more kind of individualistic. And actually, I think that kind of lends itself to a role play game a little bit, doesn't it? Because you're a group of adventurers together.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Like, when I was there, everyone kind of followed the rules as well. And, there's something to be said that you can do that too much, but especially as role players, rules layers will be like, yeah, follow the rules and all that. Rules is written. But yeah, as you say, like, when you're playing a TTRPG, if you're playing with friends, generally, depending on the group, you're trying to help each other and you're all kind of working towards a common goal. So yeah, the culture and the kind of the setting kind of echoes that sentiment, hopefully.
It's interesting because you're writing in a language that's not not that language about a culture that isn't your own. But I think, have you considered any kind of using artists from Japan? Has there been any talk of any writing coming the other way or that kind of thing as well?
I spoke to someone today actually about having it. I'm working with a localization partner on a future project. So the plan is that Ronin will be kind of localized in Japanese. And
wow,
so the plan at the minute is I was talking about it today. Someone asked about haiku, and I was like, it's not like it is haiku, but Ghost of Tsushima had the same thing where it was like the kind of poetry at the time was called waka, but Western palates kind of would just bounce off them. You need to say haiku because everyone kind of recognizes the word haiku, even if it's not technically accurate. But I was like, if we want to do the Japanese version, it'll be called waka rather than haiku because they'll know what that is. In terms of having contributors, I'd love to, but finding artists is a lot easier because all I have to do is kind of look at pictures and go, they're great.
Yeah.
Reading Japanese texts, well, obviously I say I've been learning a while, but I'm not fluent by any means, and I've got like a book of Japanese short stories and tales actually based on mythology, but it's for language learners. But it takes me like 2 hours to read like a 3-page story. I have to kind of go through and learn the words. So I'm not at a place yet where I can kind of accurately assess the writing of someone in Japan, and I wouldn't want to just like throw it into a translator and kind of try and get the kind of context and the writing style from that. I would want to be able to read and assess it properly, and then hopefully work on translating it into English for our writers, so it still captures the same kind of themes and moods. And I don't know if have you read any Murakami?
Yes, yeah, both Murakami's, in fact.
Yeah.
Haruki and Ryu, or Ryu, I
Yeah.
the lesser known.
Haruki, I know kind of what he started like translating books, and then but he actually writes in English because he finds it easier he gets less bogged down. So
Yeah,
I'd like to get to the point hopefully where one day I could write some of the stuff for us in Japanese, and yeah, I'm hoping that the project and the expansions can continue to be a way of bridging that very large gap. It's a big planet and it's a 14-hour flight, but
yeah,
I'm hoping like that the TTRPG community over in Japan's still quite small and niche, but they love Call of Cthulhu. So
yeah.
I've got some meetings when I go out there next month with kind of local retailers, and
Oh wow.
I'm hoping that we can kind of give it a kickstart over there, not necessarily with Ronin, but just kind of like give it a bit of a jump start when we kind of show them our stuff.
Yeah, I've read about their love of Call of Cthulhu, it being sort of bigger than D&D. In
Massively,
the big roleplay. Which, if you've got some horrific stuff in your game, that kind of gives you a bit of a foot in there if they're enjoying their horror.
Yeah, it's weird actually. Like I was talking to Dom about it last week, and I have this theory that because some of I don't know if you know Junji Ito.
Oh, I love Junji Ito. Yes.
Yeah. So but if you
yeah.
see him interviewed, he's kind of like the nicest man, and he loves cats and that, and he's very soft spoken, and he's not what you'd expect from someone who's writing these graphically horrible stories.
Yeah.
But I was saying to Dom, I was like, I think like because it's so nice over there, and there's like no crime really or anything. They don't have to they have to imagine these horrible things because it doesn't. Their day-to-day life isn't as affected by like horrible stuff.
Yeah.
Like some of the Western world and that.
Yeah, Junji Ito is the only time I've been reading a comic or a manga and got jump scared by turning the page.
Yeah.
Which is yeah really really horrible, but in a good way stuff. And then I bought his book about his cats, that is just completely different, and it's just so sweet. So yeah, it's that tonally there, I find some Japanese can be quite tonally dissonant, at least to kind of my Western palate, where you'll have kind of comedy and slapstick right alongside really horrible stuff. I don't know if that's something A, you've noticed, or B, included or considered when writing. I've just said the word cat and a cat has appeared in the background.
In terms of, I don't think that we've kind of like purposefully included anything necessarily slapstick or Japanese comedy, but I think a lot of our games descend into that anyway. It's funny actually. Our play group, we usually play on a Wednesday, and there's a comedy troupe in Japan that are like really famous called Wednesday Downtown or Suyobi no Downtown, and they've been going for years. I don't think they go anymore. There was some controversy and some scandal stuff, but there was a Twitch channel that had it on 24/7. So we'd kind of like watch it for an hour and chat before we started playing our games. So I think it's kind of inevitable that it's going to sleep in. But it sounds so kind of like immature, but I just don't know. I thought it was genius. So they'd have these games where it'd be like 24 hours in a hospital, and they're all dressed as like nurses, but they're not allowed to laugh. And then they'll have loads. I don't know if you've seen, is it called The Last One Laughing or something on Amazon at the minute with Bob Mortimer and a load of comedians.
Yeah, I've seen other channels do that format.
That's all from Japan. It started in like as Japanese comedy Batsu games they're called. Yes, but they're a lot weirder and horrible over there. But it's 24 hours is a long time. But yeah, and then if they laugh, someone comes in and just like spanks them on the ass with like a bat, and it's so silly. But some of the stuff they do is genius. And like if you're watching that for an hour before you play every week, it's gonna start getting in there somehow, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's any kind of fantasy kind of role play game session, you're about 2 hours away from a Monty Python reference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's it's, yeah, as I said, it's just something that I've noticed, that there's that difference in tone, and I suppose that part of why you can have a monster manual-esque book that also includes a boy carrying tofu.
Correct.
It's
Yeah.
it's alongside those horrible demons. Do you have a? Oh, sorry, go.
No. I was just going to say, kind of similar to the Junji Ito thing. I'm hoping that you will go from the horrible woman who's got like eyes all down their arms and she like eats skin or whatever, and then you turn over and see Tofu Boy, and I hope that does kind of give you a laugh, because you're like, oh, that is a tonal shift.
Yeah, it can't all be grim and horrible all the time either. And so I like that you can have those kind of lighter, maybe character-based role play moments alongside terrible
Yeah,
things.
100%. And I think it lends itself to building the tension, right? If you know everything's going to be horrible, it kind of removes the nuance or the expectation that, what could it be? Whereas if it might be something normal, then it kind of increases the suspense a little bit.
Do you have a favorite yokai? Apart from Tofu Boy, obviously, who's now my favorite.
Yeah. I'd love to say one of the like cool ones, but there's one called Bakizori, which is it's slowly becoming our mascot. And it's just basically a sandal that's come to life.
Okay.
Yeah. But he's like, if you go on the Kickstarter preview page, he's somewhere on there for sure. But he's becoming like, we just keep finding excuses to put him on things and like knocking him places. And like my friend, it's weird actually. Like we used to work, me and Dom, my business partner, he's my best friend as well. We used to work in the centre of Liverpool in like a kind of rundown. We got like our first office space for our video production company, going back like 15 years now. But we actually shared it with a comic book artist, and we became like quite good friends and stuff. But we just kind of fell out of contact. But he loves, like, he's the person who gave me those yokai books. Actually, he loves Japanese culture as well, and he kind of went and got fed into the corporate loop, and now he does storyboards for adverts and stuff, which, at least he's doing kind of something related to what he wants to do. But I just got in touch with him and was like, listen, I'm doing these kind of TTRPGs now, would you be interested? And he kind of said yeah, and he's done all the class artworks for Berserker. I don't know if you've seen them, but they're really fucking good. So, but like when I said we're doing this like yokai thing, basically there's like 100, and I've got the list and that, and I've sent it out to just a select few artists before I kind of send it out to more. And he was one of the first artists I sent it to, and he sent me the list back, I think 2 days ago, of like the ones he wanted to do, and I think he's picked like 45 or 50 out of the 100. And I was like, you can have enough time to do all these? He was like, make time. I don't mind. I want to do them. But the first one he picked was the sandal guy. So for whatever reason, he just seems to keep cropping up and being the one that resonates with people.
That must be quite an undertaking, because is that a picture for every single one of the yokai then?
We won't have, I mean, ask me after the Kickstarter, I guess. I don't think we'll have commissioned artwork for every single yokai, because, we've got to pay for future projects.
Yeah, I was going to say,
there's got to be some money somewhere.
100 pieces of art sounds.
Dom already whinges at me for like fucking spending too much money on stuff, or like trying to give things away for cheaper or free. But yeah, like, if the Kickstarter goes amazing, we will have commissioned artwork for all 100. But I think it'll be probably like 60-40 or 70-30, between 70% commissioned art and 30% royalty. I say royalty free, but it's kind of in the public domain. It's like old wood block paintings and stuff. Like, we use plenty of it in Ronin. It's all Creative Commons, but it still looks great.
Yeah, no,
that's you can't improve on what the people of the time did.
Yeah, that's a common thing with kind of the Morkborg scene as well, is using those old bits of artwork. I can probably hear 3 or 4 people in my mind saying, why not just use AI? Why not just generate 100 AI yokai? In fact, get another 500 by putting some ideas into Chat GPT.
You know what? That's a boss idea. Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, far be it from me. Like, it's been discussed, and I think it'll continue to be. I was talking about it with a friend today over lunch. He was saying, like, because he works in the film industry, and our industry, video film, is kind of. I'm already seeing the signs of that AI will, if it doesn't shun us out the way, it'll elbow us out the way sooner or later. And
Yeah.
I think, from my point of view, and from what I've seen, I think kind of also in the majority in the industry that you've got to make a stand where you can, and seeing all these recent kind of Studio Ghibli, everything Studio Ghibliified with AI, and it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Miyazaki's already like depressed, man. You're gonna send him
Yeah.
over the edge.
God, poor guy.
I think I seen a quote from him about like AI, and it was like AI can't make art because it doesn't know what misery is. And I was like, that's a good point. Yeah.
So
But yeah, I mean,
that's wonderful.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
But the point he's trying to make is there's no emotion to it. There's no feeling. It's
yeah,
like it's just all slop, man. And I've kind of started to see it seep into the TTRPG industry. And there was a
yeah.
guy I got in touch with last week about making maps for the starter set, and he done cool maps, and I was like, yeah, can you like go around? Do you take commissions and stuff? And he was like, yeah. And then like a couple of emails later, he was like, oh, just by the way, I use AI, and I was like, well, we can't use you because I don't want to
No,
encourage or promote that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a weird. Like I was saying to me friend today, I was like, I don't know how long is it before you're kind of forced to just, not that we would ever use AI, but how long is it before AI makes itself so prevalent and so ubiquitous that it's just the norm, and, human-made art in a TTRPG will be like the organic food, which is a weird comparison. But
no. It's interesting because you said that the lack of emotion. There's no real emotion in there.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
photocopy or a collage of different things. And I think
yeah,
it's dangerous in that there's going to be. It doesn't give scope for originality and innovation. It's
right, yeah.
just
Everything just
taking.
becomes the same slop.
Yeah, so it
I
can
love
keep
that word.
doing the same thing. It can write another 500 Shakespeare plays, but it can't make the next thing. It can't turn that
Yeah,
into
yeah.
something
Can't
new.
innovate. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and if we're making it difficult for people to become artists in the first place, to become videographers, to become writers,
yeah,
to
yeah,
do those creative careers, they're not going to be able to, push and
yeah,
innovate
yeah.
themselves. It's really tricky. I mean,
No.
I write.
AI should be doing AI should be doing the bullshit so we could spend more time doing art.
Yes, yeah. I mean, I write short stories, and it used to be markets that I'd submit stories to where the turnaround time was. I mean, one of the big science fiction publishers in America, the turnaround was about 12 months. So you'd send them your story, you'd hear
Yeah.
back in 12 months. They're now looking at least 3 years to get back to you about a single short story
Fuck
because
off,
they're
really.
spending their entire day just filtering out AI and just throwing away stuff.
There
Um,
must be an AI that can help write
yes,
it.
yeah.
You know what I mean? That can filter out the AI. I don't know. I just
Yeah, well,
don't know enough
I
about it.
taught at a university, and there's a bit of software that comes up and tells you if things have been plagiarized. But I
Turn
think
it in.
AI
Yeah,
is getting. Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
yeah. I remember it well
yeah.
from
So
my uni days.
it's getting cleverer and cleverer, unfortunately. But
Good.
I'm glad that there's a real thing within the tabletop RPG community, not just amongst the people making stuff, but from the people that are consuming the stuff, that are
Yeah,
buying
the
stuff.
people playing it. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. That's good.
nerds tend to be quite tech savvy, so I've found. So
Yeah, and they'll
um,
hold a grudge as well.
yes, yeah, definitely. Just thinking
Yeah.
about all my grudges now. So yeah, so that's good. I mean, you mentioned earlier as well. You mentioned Trials of the Tengu, which is
Hmm.
a scenario that's available on the Kickstarter splash page, isn't it?
I think there probably is a link to it. It's on our website. If you go to slightlyrecklessgame.com, it's under the Ronin thing. It's free. You just pop your email in and you'll get the download. And within that is a hidden Kickstarter reward tier. called The Secret Shinobi. I didn't think it was well hidden, but there's been people in the Discord saying, "Oh, they still haven't found it."
Oh,
So
okay.
a lot of people were like, "I found it straight away." And I think if you know like how to navigate PDFs, you could just kind of cheat your way to it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of our way of, sticking a little secret in there for someone. It's the reward tier itself is the best value reward tier on the list. So if you do find it, you get a good deal. But the tale itself is kind of like a teaser. It's about a guy called. It's based on a tale called the tale. Is it called The Trials of the Tengu? I think it might. It's either the same name or it's very similar to the one that I used. But it's about someone who goes up a mountain and is trialed by Tengu. We've obviously kind of gamified it a little bit, and there's actual trials that players have got to complete, and then you got to fight the Tengu at the end. And if you win, you get to learn the technique, which is Futatsume no Kami. Is it Futatsume no Kami? I can't remember. It means tornado slash anyway. And we've kind of, there's a lot of the artwork by. The cover artwork is by the guy I spoke about before, Joe Totti, who's kind of becoming our lead artist. And yeah, it's just kind of a good little teaser. I would say it's more on the Densetsu side of things rather than the Bokuyo, but we are putting some spread previews for the Bokuyo together at the minute. And I also, can I talk about that? Okay, yeah, I can talk about it. I had a meeting today with someone who's going to be doing a soundtrack. He's definitely going to be doing the trailer music for the video that we have on the Kickstarter.
Oh, nice.
And then stretch goal, we're hoping, I don't know where in the stretch goals it'll be, but we'll have a stretch goal for kind of like a core track list with music for the game, and then one with an extended one with 4 seasons for the starter set, and further on with that, and then maybe vinyl. I get ahead of myself sometimes. Yeah.
That sounds cool, though. That sounds cool. Yeah. So is that a standalone thing, or would you still need Ronin in order to enjoy the
Trials of the Tengu?
Yeah,
you would need Ronin. Yeah, it's kind of built as a mini adventure. It's even a little bit shorter than the one in the back of the book, I think. It's certainly less. It's more on rails. It's a little bit more linear. But it's meant to be kind of a linear story that you can just use to tell to your group, and it's free, so you can just go and have a look, and if you like it, play it, and if you don't, then
cool. That sounds good.
Recyclable.
I think just to go back, as I said, I think it was August last year. Last time we spoke,
sounds about right. Yeah.
That we talked about Berserker, which raised a mighty £151,296 on Kickstarter. That's amazing. That's big money.
Yeah.
That is. Were you expecting that? We were expecting it to be so successful.
No, I'd love to say yeah. I'd love to be like yeah.
I feel like I'm set. If you do say yeah, I've kind of set you up to be a dick.
Yeah.
Of course I was.
Right. Yeah. No, but I think I definitely felt more prepared going into Berserker. The fact that I came on and spoke to you, I didn't really do any of that. I think I did like one interview with the Dark Orb. I don't know if I can promo other people's channels, but check him out, I guess.
Yeah. Who's that Dark Orb?
The Dark Orb, yeah, he's called Phil. I think I'm going to be speaking with him again this week. But I think I didn't really do any promo or anything like that. So with Berserker, I kind of like put the time and effort into marketing a little bit more. Well, I mean, I did practically zero on Ronin, so anything was more. So yes, I felt more prepared, but did I think it was going to make like over $100,000? No, I thought in my head I was like, if it does similar or a bit better than Ronin, great. But yeah, for it to kind of do more than double was a shock to everyone, and it's not a bad kind of situation to be in when you're like scrambling to find stretch goals after a few days, and it's like, oh god, no, we haven't done enough prep. But yeah, so fingers crossed the next one does well also.
Yeah.
Will it do $150,000? I hope so, but who knows.
Where are you at with Berserker? When can people start to see things coming out or be able to get their hands on things?
So ticking along nicely. We're ahead of schedule in terms of. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. We're on schedule.
Always give yourself breathing room.
Exactly. Yeah. We're on schedule with stuff. Dom's obviously he's doing some graphic stuff for the Ronin Kickstarter at the minute, but I've finished all the writing on that a while back now. I think there's a couple of changes I need to do. There's the solar rules, but everything else is kind of written and done. The adventure just needs a little bit of formatting. The miniature rules are done. We got sent the cover for that today.
Nice.
The main book, I think we're over 50% done in terms of layout and design. Production wise, the dice have gone to molding. I think they went to molding last week. The meeple's done. The game board's pretty much done. Everything's ticking along nicely. It's like it's after the Ronin, and I've spoke about it before. In our first project, we used other Kickstarters as kind of how to set our timelines, and then those Kickstarters that we used started delaying, and then it was like, oh shit, now we have to delay with Ronin. But now after the first one, I was like, right, I know how long everything takes now, and I've been managing projects as a video producer for 15 years, so now I know. So we call it Scotty in it, Scotty from Star Trek, where he's like, oh, we just, we'll however long it is, we'll add like 3-4 months on just in case. And luckily, now that we know how long everything takes, Berserker's ticking along nicely, and the production for Densetsu should go swimmingly, I hope.
Yeah, so getting it smoother every single time, and then being able to do more and more stuff. I mean, that sounds like a logistical nightmare to me. The idea of all those moving parts and all those different bits and extra stretch goals that you're kind of grabbing for, and then that needs to be made there and shipped there. That would give me a heart attack. That would finish me off.
I get it, but I love making things efficient. You know what I mean? Someone came around the other day and they didn't know that I liked spreadsheets, and they were like, "Oh, that's who did that spreadsheet?" I was like, "That was me, that," and I was like, "It's dependencies, and it does all this." And oh wow! And I was like, "I fucking love it." I love making everything efficient and everything interacts with itself nice. So yeah, I'm hoping not that we're like perfect or anything, but we're certainly like we're nearly at a well-oiled machine status, which is I think. I don't want to shit on anyone else, but it's kind of a little bit of an outlier in this industry sometimes, I think.
Yes, yeah. I've seen some very big companies mess up on Kickstarter. So yeah, it is something that people can drop the ball and be too ambitious and do too much. But I just wondered, like the Operation Slightly Reckless Games. It's you and Dom, isn't it? Is that?
Yes, correct. That's still the core components, but it's grown significantly over the last 2 years. Our kind of collaborators are turning into potential employees, and
Okay.
It's obviously I spoke to you about it before I came on about like I'll be going out to Japan, and it looks like I don't want to say I don't want to like jinx it, but it looks like we might be setting up a Japanese arm of Slightly Reckless Games that would kind of split me between the UK and Japan, and it's growing, but it's not growing so fast that I can't keep a lid on it.
Suppose that's kind of the dream, though, right? That you get to make cool stuff for a living and split yourself between two places. I say two places you love. One place you love and one place that's grey. Lots of shades of grey.
Yeah. I mean, when you put it like that, it does sound nice, but I also like I wake up and I work until I go to bed, and I've been doing that since January. So I'm hoping after the Kickstarter and I go over to Japan, I can kind of focus on finishing the writing for Densetsu and then moving on to our next project.
And enjoy yourself while you're there. And
fingers crossed.
And relax.
I don't know about that.
Mental health warning for everyone. Relaxing can also be productive.
But will induce guilt.
Or for some people just love it and just do way too much stuff, and that's not me. But that sounds really good. That sounds really like a big development for you guys to be able to go and kind of split yourselves between there. It's really interesting.
Not set in stone yet, obviously, but that's kind of where it looks like it's going.
The idea of you creating a product in English inspired by Japan and then feeding it back in and having that retranslated, that must be such a weird kind of feeling to know it's kind of gone round in that loop.
It's crazy the kind of full circle kind of path that it's taken. Obviously we did Berserker last year and that did really well, but to kind of be back doing the Japanese stuff again and also going over there and working with Japanese companies and that kind of thing. It feels like it's come full circle. Yeah, so it's a nice analogy.
So if people have not got into your stuff yet, if they don't, but I've done so well. I haven't done that all episode. If people are into what you've said and want to check things out, what is available and where would they go to kind of see what you've got at the moment?
So Ronin is available for free on the website as a text-only version, bare bones, if you will. So even if you're just curious, you can download that for nothing, and you can download the Trials of the Tengu for free, and you can play with just those two things if you want for nothing. If you like it, you can buy the book. You can buy the digital version from Drive-Thru RPG and our website, and the physical versions we've just kind of partnered with an American distributor and a UK hub, and we're updating our website at the minute so that hopefully, I don't know when it'll happen, but you'll be able to buy everything on our website soon. One thing I will say as well, the shipping prices were quite high on Berserker because we asked the backers if they would, we asked our American backers if they wanted to pay less and wait a bit longer, or pay the same and pay a little bit more and get it at the same time as everyone else, and they said they wanted to pay a little bit more. But this time around, because we're shipping all the Berserker stuff from within the UK, which means, and the orange guy is trying to tariff stuff, so I don't know what it's going to look like for the rest of the year, but we will be shipping all future projects from two hubs in America, I think, and one in the UK and one in Europe, and I think maybe one in Australia if there's enough kind of movement. It's, as I kind of spoke about before, we're trying to get everything to a place where it's but good for everyone. We're not kind of splitting stuff, or like shipping fees should be normal, and within someone's country you won't be paying customs and that kind of stuff. Berserker, I think the backer kit is still open for pre-orders, but that will be closing. It's like 2 weeks or 1 week. There's not long left for that one. I don't know when this is going out. Might already be closed, but tough shit. And then our website should be the home of all our stuff. Sign up to the mailing list, and you can keep abreast of all the things we've got coming out.
Yeah, when I was asking about where you're at with Berserker, I was hoping that you'd say that you'd got your hands on some stuff and would be able to sell it to me at the UK Games Expo.
As discussed, I am not going to be in this country when the UK Games Expo is on. Unfortunately, it's just the way it fell. So we had the option of kind of like going without me, but also like we don't have any of the Berserker stuff, like you say. We I'm getting sent samples and stuff. We don't have anything concrete, so we'd just be coming with the remaining Ronin stock we've got, which is dwindling. It's like we're down less than 100 copies of Ronin, I think, somewhere knocking about, and I think there's like just over 100 in America. But we made the decision to skip this year, even though, and they let us kind of transfer the deposit over to 2026.
Oh, that's good.
So we'll be back in 2026, and we're hoping to kind of expand a little bit. So we're hoping to go to like Essenspiel and Gen Con and PAX East and that kind of stuff. But yeah, hopefully, like by that time, we'll have the Ronin stuff, we'll have the Berserker stuff. We should have the Densetsu stuff come. We should well have it by then, and hopefully a couple more treats.
Excellent. So that will be Ronin, the 2 expansions, the starter set, and the DM screen that I didn't mention. I love a DM screen.
Everyone's been hammering on us for that.
And then as a short man with a tall table, I tend to end up like pulling them around when I'm playing. But that'll be the 15th of April.
Yeah.
There is,
and it'll run for 3 weeks, I think.
Run for 3 weeks, and then there's Berserker on backer kit. So check that out as soon as possible. But if you want to check things out, is it slightlyrecklessgames.com?
It is, yeah.
You can check things out. And if you like me personally and all the stuff that I've done here, the Critical Twits, so it's criticaltwits.com. There's links to our YouTube, to our 2 different podcasts that we do, this one and an actual play podcast, and a surprisingly popular TikTok channel that involves me playing board games against my cat.
Nice.
So if people
Who
like that
wins?
kind of thing, define winning. If you mean sticking to the rules and technically getting a decision from the judge, it's me. If it's having a great time and breaking stuff, then it's Yuki, my cat, who has a
Oh, Yuki's
Japanese
a nice
name.
name.
Yeah.
Means snow.
So I've got little bit of irrelevance at the end. Yes, so I've I named one of my cats after. Are you an Attack on Titan fan?
I am. Yeah.
So my favorite character in that is Hanji.
Yeah.
Yes, and my cat Hanji has one eye. So I was going through one-eyed
That's nice.
characters.
My cat's got one eye, and he's
Oh
named
wow!
after Guts from Berserk.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah. So he lost it when he was a kitten.
Same.
And his brother is, and I was like, what do I call his brother? Because I can't have like Hanji and Jeff. Like that's it. It was weird. So I have Hanji and I have Yuki, who's pure white. So snow was where that came from. And he's deaf. So
really?
if you hear any odd cat noises in the background of this recording, it's because he's been screaming. He just screams. And he's having a great time. He's living his life, but he has no idea how loud he is.
My cat fucking shuts his head off as well.
Yeah. We love them, but we suffer for them sometimes.
Mm.
So that's our TikTok, Critical Twits on TikTok. You can see Yuki destroy my attempts to play board games. So that's brilliant. So I've been Brian. Thank you again, Sacha, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
And probably when you're on your next project, I'm sure we'll talk again. Or I can try and bend your arm to come and play some games with us on the actual play channel as well.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to come and run a game.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Nice one.